You're now listening to Gradually Speaking. From campus pitches to leading one of North America's fastest growing startups, he has turned a notepad concept into a powerful marketing platform used by small businesses all across the country. As the founder and CEO of SellStatic, he has built a company, led a team, and earned national recognition all before crossing the stage. His journey is a true masterclass in momentum, resilience, and building while you learn. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Imam Khalid.
Thank you, man. What a nice wholesome intro, man. That was awesome.
So, hey man, let's just start at the beginning. What initially drew you to computer science as like a high school student?
It's nice, man. Usually my first question on podcasts are what got you into entrepreneurship. I like you took a twist to it.
Mhm.
So for students that are listening to this, that are in their first year of university or second, or even in an early stage, or even high school students, if you have high school listeners, or even if you're not in a university, my goal is to make this relevant to everybody. So I'll tell you my story. By no means am I saying to follow anything I did. It's more so just documenting what I'm doing. But funny enough, what drew me to computer science is that when I was in high school, my first baby venture was I used to sell. I don't remember when fidget spinners used to be a thing. I used to buy and sell fidget spinners in grade nine. Then, man, I was a clumsy kid. I kept breaking my phone. So I used to go to high school in Oakville and Toronto. So I would break my phone screen all the time. And what would happen is that once my phone screen would break, I would need a replacement. So what I started doing was that I was like, hey, other people have this problem. So I was a kid that would sign napkin contracts, sit in the cafeteria fixing phones, taking them home. I started this business called IK Fixes. It was funny. I ran that for a year. Then obviously it wasn't very scalable because not everyone's always breaking their phones and no one's gonna give me like $2,000, $3,000 iPhone X's. I think that was the time around when iPhone X's came out. Then funny enough, I pitched my first startup competition, which was at York University, well, with EDA. So I had an older brother that was part of a club at York, and they were hosting a pitch competition. He was really encouraging me to come. So I competed at Lausanne. Lausanne was a partner at this event. I competed at Lausanne's building as a high school student against university students, and I ended up winning first place at this pitch comp against university students. And then obviously that gave me a little bug in entrepreneurship, like they kind of gave the little guy a shot. And it was like a drone business we were doing for safety mechanisms for drones. But all this backstory to tell you, this is all pre-university. It's stuff I was doing in high school. I was part of DECA, I was part of other clubs. I was pretty involved in elementary school and high school. But what led me to computer science specifically was that everything I've told you up to now has all been business related. So as you could probably tell, my confidence level got a little higher and higher and higher every time I would do something in the business field. So I kind of knew I had a skill under my belt already, which was, like I can learn business and the details and stuff I can do online. But I want to learn something of a skill that I do not have. And that skill was, of course, computer science. And in a world where, things were changing rapidly, I ended up taking computer science and trying to do a double major with business at Lausanne School of Engineering alongside BEST, which is the Bergeron Entrepreneurs in Science and Technology. And man, that really got me, I guess, started. And I think it's the full reason that I am where I am today because, now I run a technical startup that's almost fully reliant on tech. So, yeah, it's a little bit about my story, why I chose. And the more so, the benefit of doing so was that now I'm able to lead a group of technical developers, but actually knowing what they're doing because I studied what they studied, even though my specialty was still in business. So hopefully that kind of answers the question, but I think that's kind of the main thing I would shout out to people as well. Do something that you have not previously gotten experience in because that's stuff that helps you scale.
Right. So you tried so many things, right? From technical skills, developing your soft skills, and that's kind of how you found out what you liked. But you were involved in so much. How did you balance being a student, a leader, and a founder?
Great question, man. Truth is, man, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I didn't balance it at all. But funny, man, like even just my last semester, man, I was taking 6 courses, and then my co-running the business at the same time. In order for things like this to happen, there needs to be agreements that are set in place. One beautiful purpose is that I had a support system and a team. When you have a team and you're able to delegate properly, you're able to understand what is it in this one year that I want to achieve. So, for example, when I launched SellStatic in its first year, I know there would be months where I'd be able to put full-time 40, well, I was always putting 40 hours in, but I knew that some weeks I'd be able to put 60, 80, 70, whatever those hours are because I'm off. But then I knew some weeks I would be able to put less because I had exams coming up, for example. Then my first challenge I hit was my first wave of exams hit, and I wasn't even the problem. I was still able to kind of juggle my exams and my work, but my entire team went off of like for exam break. And now leading a team of students, that was obviously very difficult because I have clients who have to take care of, I have deadlines that are being met. And that was one of my first major challenges that I faced as a student entrepreneur was kind of managing the exam schedule. So the first thing that I did to balance this is A, get organized. Goals only take people so far. I love this saying from Zig Ziglar that motivation is not permanent. I wasn't waking up every day motivated. Even today, I tell you, like I have all this cool stuff going on. But even to this morning, like I'll wake up, I don't wake up all excited that yes, it's my passion to sit today and like write for fucking like 6 hours on like legal procedures that I have to get prepped for my pre-seed round. Like it's not my passion to be doing the grunt work, right? But there's another saying which is that goals only take you so far, systems take over after a certain point. So my objective was what are systems that I can put in place now that are daily habits that if I do the one thing of the certain thing, it will go and start driving success and like those outputs keep running. Whether that was sales calls being led, whether it was a couple guys learning, teaching them how to do sales calls, whether that's me picking up the phone and dialing for an hour a day or 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day, it was always things that I did for a consistent period of time that got me to help get things more organized. And this ties into number two, which is a Google Calendar. I really, really recommend that anybody listen to this. If you're not, if so, I don't know if you've heard this saying that if you've not planned your week, sorry, if you've not planned your day, you failed the next day. If you've not planned your week, you failed that week. If you've not planned your month, you failed that month. If you haven't planned your year, you failed that year. And I think it's very crucial to sit, for example, on a Sunday. And I do this every night before the next morning. My calendar is open and I start piecing blocks everything together. And funny enough, the night that I can't do it, the next morning, like I actually have a late start to my day because my first hour has to be getting everything organized. And especially as a founder, you're the backbone of the entire company. Your job is to be ensuring that, hey, what time do I have an exam? What time do I have, a meeting with this professor? What time do I have an investor conversation? What time do I have a client meeting? What time do I have to have a meeting with my own team? How many of those am I doing a week? Am I having my general meeting week for the entire team? And then you start having operational work. When am I doing my deep work? Which is like I'm doing the legal procedures that I was telling you today. So that organization aspect of having that calendar. And then my last thing I did was tied to this calendar aspect. I made my calendar available to everybody on my team. I know sometimes people shy away from doing that. But I shrugged. I said Google Calendar has a feature. If you want my calendar, you have it. Like, if I'm going on a date this week, you have it in your calendar. Just don't bug me during that time. But if something's happening, like I want you to have availability to it for the sole purpose that you know what I'm doing. If it's 11 p.m. and you get a message from me 11 p.m. on Slack or 2 a.m., it'll be in my calendar. I'm doing deep work right now. I'm getting something done. So things change. Your calendar won't be exactly always correct, but as long as you have a place and you share that openly with your team, obviously these three couple things that I've talked about, and obviously the calendar is kind of what I did to stay kind of locked in school.
Right. So again, like you have all this experience, and this experience didn't just come overnight. It came from even making mistakes, right? You self-reflected, and now you have systems to take care of the things that were lacking, right?
Yeah.
So, what's one moment during your undergrad that was kind of your turning point in your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh man, that's a good question. That's a very, very good question. For me, there's a couple. So It's funny. I've never talked about this publicly, but I don't mind, man. I think it's part of my journey to be vulnerable and teach. So I was after my first year. I had a situation go on where I took on a bunch of courses, and I was one of the graduate years online on COVID. So my first year came, and I got into university. I thought it was going to be a breeze. I was trying to get good grades, but I was in the middle between doing something very personal in my life, and also moving between Niagara and Toronto. Like my house was moving, we were renovating. It was very 6 months of like a very shitty time. Um, and it was funny enough, man. It was literally after my first year, or in my first year. Like I went to go apply for courses, and then my grades were that first year summer. I actually took I took six courses. I tried dropping them because I needed to do something that summer. And funny enough, they didn't drop like on REM or whatever the system was. So like I was enrolled all summer and I didn't even know. So imagine like F on your midterms, F on every assignment, F on finals. No, like I had no email or whatever. I was gone. I was here for the summer. So I come back and I tried registering for my next semester. And dude, I was like barred for like a year or 2 years. So my GPA dropped because after having five courses, there was a whole little problem. Then, man, it was so annoying. You had to go through like a whole procedure on like, well, first of all, it was a very depressing feeling, obviously, because I had a lot going on in my personal life. And then, like, you're at this point where, like, you have situations going on in your personal life. Like my health was an issue at the point. Like, I didn't have anything like a business or anything going then. I had like I was just graduating like out of high school, and like everyone in that COVID time still had a lot of high school issues. Because obviously we never graduated fully, right? Then on top of that, now my school is in trouble. So we ended up getting it fixed out. I ended up starting that fall for school anyways. I sent a petition and do all that crap. But the severity of the situation was just like, the stacking on top of a bunch of bad things. And I remember, man, it was a pretty depressing time. It was a very depressing time. And the reason was because you're at this point where you feel alone because you want to do something differently. You haven't started yet. So I heard this quote where it was, and I've heard it like multiple times, read it in a book as well. You've probably heard it as well. But in life, there are entrepreneurs and there are entrepreneurs. And when I heard the word entrepreneur, I was like, fuck, like, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. It's not like a shitty word. And at that time I was. At that time I was. I would do all this talk that I want to be rich, I want to get things done, but I would get nothing done. I wanted to make progress, but I wasn't making progress. And then, like all these other issues you're battling with, fighting with, like, a man needs to feel progress in order to feel successful or attainment in any sort of formal way. So that was a big turning point in my undergraduate year where it was like my after my first year, man, I got my first job. I started working at TD. I was, what, let's take one step at a time. I worked at the bank. So I got a great opportunity to work there. So I worked at the bank for a little bit. Then I got my first internship at a startup in downtown Toronto, where, oh my goodness, it taught me everything I needed to do about sales. I was knocking on doors in 40-degree weather, for a software that I don't even know if it worked or not, but it was a pretty massive startup in Toronto. And then there were sales challenges that would go on, and I explored this whole realm of startups that I didn't even know existed. Then kind of got me my buck. Then I became president for the Entrepreneurship Development Association, EDA at York University. That's where I started getting leadership experience now, because now I'm running a team of 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 students. And we're running clubs, managing, putting together sponsorships, bringing in over $20,000 that year. Look for a lot for student clubs. So now you have to go pitch partnerships. Funny enough, it's all components that are different parts of startups. So I learned my sales aspect of that internship, then discipline obviously as well. Then I learned my during school time, you're learning discipline. You're learning, how to meet deadlines, what to do if you're not meeting a deadline, how to get out of situations, balancing your time. Then I go and I do this 1 year presidency where you work for a year with almost zero reward. So in that 1 year, I was president, but like I was closing these $5,000 checks. I remember still looking at this check I got from Deloitte for our biggest sponsorship. And I'm sitting in my car, I'm listening to Trophies by Drake. I'm feeling good. But it was funny, but I looked at the check, then I was all excited. And I walk into the at York Lanes and I go to put the check into the bank. It's gone. I didn't get a dollar of it. It's not my money. And that was like a realization point that like, man, like I could be doing this for myself. I just secured so much money for a club. And of course it was amazing. So I learned a lot. I gave a lot of keynotes and presentations, well, more so like emceeing and stuff, trying to make an impact in our community. Then after that, that summer I was had a couple offers to either go corporate or I had an offer to go to a startup. And funny enough, I'm an idiot. So I took a sales manager position at a massive, one of the biggest startups in Canada at the time. So I worked. as a sales manager at 21, 22, 21, and I had two interns working for me, which is pretty cool. Like, we were all one team. But obviously, as a kid, you're like, oh, third year and I'm a manager, so it was like cool. So I was helping us start to build their internal sales systems. Then I got access to all these conferences and like big boardroom discussions, and once again, really fed on the bug of like startup and entrepreneurship. Um, I'm kind of just walking you through my journey after that kind of downfall, the hockey stick curve. Then man, I got another then an opportunity to start stacking on top of another. Then someone under on Forbes 30 under 30, I met at a conference. I was going to all these events, and he offered to mentor me for to work for his startup that he's launching, and he's already exited his last startup for $4 million. Funny enough, we ended up leaving that startup, and I'll tell you about that later. We ended up leaving that startup, but I met my co-founder at the startup. My current co-founder I met at that startup. So now I'm getting mentorship, and for someone who's been on Forbes, exited a $2-3 million company. I think the company exited for 20. I think he took two. But then all of this combined, I ended up dropping EDA. I ended up dropping Dine, which was that startup I was at. I ended up dropping, what is it called? That startup I was working at, the two startups I was now at. And I went all in on SellStatic. And that's where I spent my final year of school building SellStatic, and have brought it to where it is today.
Wow, that's that's such an incredible journey. Like even when I think about it and you tell me about the skills you learned, and it's just the perfect combination, right, that you put into self-static. So more on that, how did you gain like real traction on self-static, like beyond just a student project?
Great question, man. So at a young age, a lot of the time when you're going to market with a business, your
Mm-hmm.
challenge that happens is that you're looked as like a child. And people don't take you seriously, and there's a million other things. So when it went from project slash into like actual like, oh wow, this could be something, it was a pivotal moment. It was what I spent a lot of my initial time validating my product. Now, a lot of students go through a very, very similar problem, and not and students, which are just entrepreneurs in general. Tech kids have this problem where they build some insane projects. Dude, I've been to someone's house and they built some stuff that if I looked at, I was like, dude, we could have made $1 million off this product. It was a couple years ago, but he has it just sitting in his basement. And because a passion for those guys is to build, not to sell, not to do the work, not like the work in the sense of actually going to run a business, right? They just like building cool shit. So I met a lot of people like that, hence how obviously I built my team. But um, a lot of the time when you're building in this early stage, I spent my early time validating before I built. That was a massive part of my journey. Where before I went to my CTO, I went and I would sit for 3 hours a day. I'd pick up the phone and I'd have a notebook and I would dial 100 dials a day, 100 a day. I had to, no matter what. So I did that for a couple months, and like, it was dial, 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 dial. And what that did was those dials were telling me is that if I had this product right now in my hand for a real estate agent, would you buy? Would you buy? And when you answer that question, and if it is a yes, and 100 people tell you yes, it's probably a good time to start building, right? Because what I did, for example, was, let's just give you an example. Let's just say that, Vanch, you come to me and you say that, Imam, I have this insane sleeping device that if you put it next to you, you'll sleep like a baby the rest of your life. It'll be perfect. Imam, it'll be amazing. I look at you, I'm like, bro, to be honest, man, like my neck just kind of hurts when I sleep. Like, like I don't really need a machine. You come to me, you're like, screw you, Imam. You don't believe in my vision, whatever. You screw me. And then you go and you talk to someone else. Now you talk to Sally. You pitch Sally, Sally, this is the best sleep machine again and again, and give him a whole pitch. Sally looks at you and says, dude, to be honest, like my neck just kind of hurts. Like, like, it hurts a little bit. Like my pillow just gets really warm when I sleep. So I don't know, it just bothers me a little bit. You're like, fuck you, Sally. And you go to like, you basically go do this 100 different times. And what happens is that after your 100th time, and after 100 people have told you that, dude, their neck hurts from a pillow or something, don't you think it's probably a good fucking time to build a pillow rather than your sleeping device? What that is that you're learning from validation. That is the objective that they're working towards. How can we learn, create an objective that you know that people want, and then you start building? Then the building becomes worth it. So for me, I went to market, I built something, I validated it, then I started building. Then we took a very lean approach, we built it, And that's when we started feeling that first initial traction out of a student project because I had numbers to show. I had statistics to show that I have people to buy it. Now imagine I'm telling you that I have like, 1,000 people ready to buy at like, like let's just say whatever number it is. And I'm telling you, dude, I have 20,000 MRR ready to go as soon as I launch my product. Who wouldn't believe in you? And then I go and I built a team, a CTO who comes on board. I give him equity. Me and him start building. We build a very, very shitty product. Then people start using the product. And they're like, oh, and you start showing them. And then, the hype starts. So while I was building my product, I started building my brand. And my brand and product went together. And that's kind of where my first initial traction came from out of students.
Right. So your strategy is to like build the brand first and then the product, or build them together?
I say simultaneously together. If you
I
don't have
see.
a product, build a brand. Your
I
brand,
see.
in my personal opinion, some might not agree,
Hmm.
but your brand is something that'll carry you for a very long time, even if your product sucks. Because now sometimes I have people that buy because they trust me. And
Right.
that's a pretty powerful position to be in. Because if I change my product's point of view and like something changes and like even I change my core offering, people are still going to back me because they trust me, right?
Hmm.
And that's the benefit of building a personal brand. Now, it doesn't build overnight. Man, you've been seeing just before we hopped on the call, you were telling me you've been seeing posts from me every single week. You see
Yeah.
stories on my Instagram every single day. Like, it's a part of my job. Like, we have to put in work and document what we're doing. But the cool stuff is easy to document when it's happening. But the hard part is when you have jack shit going on and you have to go now show people that what you're working on. It might be a tremendous fail or it might be a great push. It's one or the other.
Right. So what's one lesson from those months of building that you still carry today?
Great question, man. A huge lesson I learned is that a team is the most important thing that you will have during your building process. Obviously, there's the quotes where you say, a person trying to go further in a year. I'm butchering the quote right now, but it's like, someone who tries going worth in 1 year, try to go alone versus a team in a lifetime. There's like one person in a lifetime versus a team in a year. So like point of the quote I just probably butchered really badly is that um I always thought more the merrier. The whoever wants to come join, come work for free, come do this, come do this. Man, it was a quick, very, very fast learning lesson. Obviously, I'm a student, right? So I'm learning all this crap for the first time. That the more is not the merrier. In business, there's this principle about management that I learned, which is the Pareto's principle, but it's used in a lot of different aspects of business. But it can actually be used in leadership, where Jim Rohn taught me this in like an audiobook I was listening to. And it was 20% of people in your business will do 80% of the work. 20% of people will do 80% of the work. And then 80% of people on your team will only do 20% of the work. But guess who requires most of your time? The 80%.
80%. Yeah.
But now the mathematical flaw there is that why am I inputting so much into little return? Only 20% return. The ones who don't need my time are the ones that I should be giving it to. The ones that need it but don't ask for it because they're delivering 80% of the results on my team. So a trap that I fell into was that, hey, I'm bringing in all these little guys that are working on different pieces, some that are not passionate about the business. Because another massive lesson in this that no one, and this is to every founder listening, if I can give one piece of advice, no one will work harder on your business than you. No one in this lifetime will work harder on your business than you. Any expectation after that is a failure on you. Where you as the founder, it is your job to cover the blanks, do everything it takes to ensure that your company is running. But your team is the next step forward because their job is to ensure your vision is being painted correctly. And if you have someone that's screwing up the structure while they're walking, and if you have someone, if like a bucket of water and a drop of poison example, you'll see a very fast ripple effect when you have one negative person on your team, and it'll start railing down to other people that don't want to work. And like funny enough, it might even be like my team watching this. But the job is that it's truly how I learned my lesson how to cut. not good people early and keep and double down on the people that have been performing well. So I think that's my biggest lesson that stuck with me during my years of building.
Right. So there's this very amazing quote which says, "You're never ready. You just have to give it a shot, and you're gonna suck eventually, initially, but you just have to fix it along the way." So, as someone who has taken SellStatic to national stages and the Web Summit, what does momentum over perfection look like for you?
Man, I love it. It's funny. I was on call with one of my advisors yesterday, and we're launching our V2 version of our product, and I was all like stressed out because do I launch now? Do we raise our investment seed now? It was a funny problem. But he told me this funny thing where he's like, Imam, if your kid's ugly, you just not let him go outside. And I started laughing. I was like, well, no, obviously let him go outside. He's like, yeah, right. So let the kid play. Ugly is fixable. We can make him less ugly over time. And we laughed about it. We're like, yeah. So he's like, you said it perfectly. I think it's Alex Hormozy who says that, and I love it. You just have to understand that as a 22-year-old, as a 20-year-old, whatever your age is, you suck. You suck. We do not have the experience. And it's okay. It's okay that we suck. Because myself, you, anyone, the one thing that we have over other people is time and the actual ability to be putting in, working 60 hours a week and sleeping 4 to 5 hours a day. Everyone will tell you that, oh, Imam, work-life balance. Oh, Imam, you should be taking care of your sleep. Oh, Imam, you should. We are at our physical, best time to be able to perform at from 25, and younger is even better, but 25 to 35 is your peak ability to work as many hours in the day and sleep less amount of time at night and still double down on results. And that is something that, is a massive play for a lot of people that they don't realize for. And that's our advantage over the 30, 40-year-old gurus that have all this business knowledge and 40, 50-year-olds that have all this business knowledge and all this money. So the thing for me was, how can I now go and take advantage and just work as hard as possible and output that amount of work every single day and replicate that system as I talked to you about last time, where you will have people that will not agree with you, like the web summit, the stages, the pitches. Like, for example, how could I have ever told myself that I'm about to walk on stage as the youngest founder in North America in front of 2,000 people live, three TV cameras, 10 of the most powerful judges I've ever seen before, and I'm about to walk on stage with the mic on my ear. I've never used one of those proper mics either. It was like the first time before a couple pitches. But momentum over perfection is a very dangerous thing because you'll figure it out along the way when you mess up. Learning from mistakes is true. And we said this before, when you suck, you mess up, you learn faster, you build faster. If you took everything away, you took SellStatic away, you took my team away, you took everything away, I'm very confident. I'm very, very confident that up until what I have right now, I could do again. And why do you think that is? The reason for that is because I did the work. I learned. I fell on my face many, 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 many times. Many times. There's days I'm sitting there and I don't know what to do because I messed up so badly that I'm sitting on my laptop. I'm like, shit, what am I gonna do to eat for the next week? And it's like you're stressed because you're like, look, what are you gonna do? You have fees to pay. You have one slip up, someone's gonna come after you for this or this, and whether it's a lawsuit, whether it's this, stuff like that's always gonna happen, right? But thankfully, no, none yet. But the point just is that I learned as I started going, and that's where momentum is something that carries you after a long period of time. Your business is gonna be a bunch of shitty days with a couple of good days sparkled on top, and your job is to hold on to those good days. Because that Web Summit day was a good day that I posted. A podcast is a good hour that I'm having with you. It's a little sprinkle on top. Or getting published in a magazine, that's a sparkle on top. But majority of the days I'm sitting there and I have no fucking clue sometimes what I'm doing. Or I do something for an entire day and then ends up having to throw it in the garbage because it's not gonna work. It's getting rejection. It's getting spat on by an investor. It's things like this are naturally part of our process that we just as human beings have to learn. And I'll finish off the answer to this question with this, which is people say that 95% of startups fail. I disagree very strongly. I don't believe 95% of startups fail. It's actually, if you think about it, it's very hard to fail. 95% of startups quit. In order to be in the top 30 podcasts globally, all you have to do is put out 30 consistent episodes. How insane is that? Like, and I heard this in a statistic, it may have been even higher, maybe even 10%. To be in the top 10% of podcasts in the world, all you have to do is put out 30 consistent episodes, and you're officially in the top 10%. But isn't it crazy and how easy it is to beat people when you just have to do the work, like work for 30 days straight. They don't have to be good. Just consistency beats other people. I have founders that started with me, launched with me, didn't make it. And didn't make because their idea was bad. They didn't make because they were bad. It wasn't their priority. They didn't want to give stuff up. And yeah, long-winded answer to your question, but hopefully that answers the question on momentum versus perfection.
Absolutely. You were clearly very eager to answer that question because it's something you are going through right now. So
Yeah.
thank you for such an elaborate and insightful answer. Now, I wanted to talk about, so you talked a bit about like the next steps for you right now. So now that you have graduated, right? Where are you focusing your energy post-university?
This is it's a very simple question, man. I think it's the
Mm-hmm.
growth. It's the growth right now. I
Mm-hmm.
think obviously, man, I'm living in an immigrant household. Like, you'll hear it a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Go get married, go lose so much weight, go do this, go do that, and like, get a job. But like obviously family comes around when they see you in a couple on TV a couple times, they'll start coming around a little bit. But for me right now, man, I think I'm in pursuit. I'm happy in pursuit. I want to see so I'm documenting my journey. I want to see where this pursuit takes me. All the lessons I'm learning right now, it's just an investment, man. It's investment to like, build skills. First year return right now, and man, I'm just putting my head down and I'm working. I think that's going to be, it's been a very, very big difference ever since I've been full-time versus part-time. I'm not having to worry about deadlines and all these small things. So, yeah, man, I think I'm definitely focused on school. Sorry for on being done with school. I'm definitely focused on the businessman to see how big and how far we can take this.
Right. And like you are also taking active steps to make sure you document your journey in order to inspire others. I mean, that's how we met, right? You were just leading a pitching workshop, and that's how we met. And when I heard you talk, I was like, yeah, I need to interview this guy. So just so you have led like pitching workshops and like product kind of you see students trying to pitch their product. What's the number one mistake you see student founders make?
Oh man, if it's pitch related, I'll give you pitch related, and I'll give you just a mistake they make overall. So I'm going to judge on multiple competitions as well. The number one mistake that students make when while pitching, especially, um, man, you got to be clear with what you're trying to do. I think clarity is a lot of the time where people get caught up, and especially when you're talking to engineering students versus business students. Engineering students have the problem where they'll try explaining a very complex problem, and no one will know what the hell they're talking about, like about physothermia, like something that like you've never heard before. And you're sitting there as a judge and you're like, bro, like, not only did you tell me the size of the problem, but also how are you going to solve it? So the biggest mistake that I see made is that people really neglect that they think they have to have traction to win competitions. They think they have to have like, insane amount of time on problems and like, have a clear structure like a school presentation. And the school presentation system is very flawed, man. We're taught to follow structures, and I get it because some people aren't good at presenting. Um, but if I could summarize both advices on what I'm about to say for like, be how, the story, the market, whatever. One piece of advice would be learn how to tell a good story. Learn how to tell a good story. Because I'm sure you've heard this a million times before. People don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. Now, whether you're pitching an idea to your parents, whether you're pitching an idea to your nursing student, pitching it to, your senior doctor, whether you're trying to get an interview for a job, or whether you're trying to sell a client in sales, everything comes down to psychology. And that psychology is that how can you become a relatable person by telling and relaying a story? The reason when I give keynotes and I believe people listen to me is because I'm able to hook them on my tone. I'm able to hook them on the story that I've been telling and I've been pitching consistently live on my brand. My personal profile, man, I'm not even trying where I like 40,000 organic views a month. So like it's one of those things where, and that's just on one platform. But funny enough, we're spending zero on ads. That's what happens when you start sharing a story. Now, people don't realize that whether it's your social online, whether it's your slide deck presentation in school, whether it's your whatever that aspect is, you'll see the winners of every competition, the ones that get the best grades, or even the ones that are winning in social media, like the girls that go on and spend every single day on TikTok updating their life. Why are they winning? Well, of course, obviously, because looks is a massive thing. People, pretty privilege is a thing. But the next step after that is because they're good at telling the story. They're every single day they're sharing updates, they're telling what's going on, what's going bad. How does it feel to be in this situation? Even when I want to learn right now, I learn from people that are good at telling good stories. So if that's one skill you can put together, because storytelling leads into you building a vision. That is how I was able to convince you today that, I'm very passionate about my vision. I know that what I want to do, and like I've built a pretty clear picture and where I'm going. And you need storytelling to be able to lead a team. You need storytelling to sell. You need storytelling to be able to market. How are you marketing into a storytelling? You need to storytelling for UX UI design. Like how are you designing a story for everyone that's coming in to seeing a vision that's painted, right? So it's number one common mistake I see students make come in and make things way too complex. Complexity kills execution. And they have these complex ideas. They might be great ones, but it's all disjointed and it's broken. And sometimes people come with too much simplicity. Where it's like, dude, like I want to take a basketball to the moon and shoot it. Like, versus like, we want to take life and help like, the solar economy and all this versus stuff that people talk about. So yeah, man, I think that's what resonated with me, and I would definitely give back to student entrepreneurs and students in general.
Right. So you talked about student students having amazing ideas, but just not being able to tell good stories. So I want to ask you your thoughts on the quote that you should never rebuild the wheel, and how how important do you think the niche is? Like, how important is your problem statement when building a solution?
It's funny, man. I love this answer because your problem statement is what defines your business. If you don't have a problem you're
Right.
solving, it's kind of what I talked about earlier today as well. When you're going to actually validate your business, you're going out to find a problem, a true problem. VC has this, Y Combinator, sorry, has this beautiful saying where it's build something that people want, build things that people want. And that is your problem statement. Your problem statement is that what is the problem that every single person is facing in the room? And if you don't have a big enough problem slash a big enough market to solve this problem, at an early stage especially, no one's going to look your way. No one's giving you their client money. No one's giving you investor money. And it's because you weren't able to understand it yourself. The lack of understanding of your own problem is that wheel kind of we talk about, which is the foundation of that wheel. Which is that when I go ask someone, so when I'm a judge and I go to compete, like, when I'm at competitions and I'm judging a bunch of student entrepreneurs, the first question I ask is that they think I'm going to say, pitch me your idea. I don't. I'm like, give me your problem statement. They're like, what? And that itself is a learning lesson for them. I can tell what your solution is based off of you telling me your problem. I heard this too, is that it's very rare that someone can make you fall in love with the problem before even hearing the solution. And that is when you know that you have a good business. When someone can make you fall in love with the problem before even hearing the solution. Hence why my first question I ask everybody is that what is the problem you're solving and who is it for? Does that make sense? So I would very emphasize on that key point for also entrepreneurs.
Right. I know, like, this is like a this is contradictory to what you said, but what is like a structure for a pitch? And I know that you told me that your pitch should not have a structure because it should be a story. But like if you had to like dumb it down, like or if you had to dumb down how you pitch into like simple words, how would you go about that?
Well, I want to emphasize. I didn't say structure is bad. I said
Mm-hmm.
storytelling with structure is good. So maybe I should
Mm-hmm.
emphasize that. A structure is not bad. I don't want to say a structure is bad. Structures are very, very good things. But you reading an outline versus you telling a story is two very, very different things. So there's very basic structures that a lot of people have, which is like your problem, very, very telling that strongly, your solution, your market size, your Sam Tam Som. Then defining your having the data to back up this issue, your traction. What have you currently done to solve this problem? If you don't have traction, double down on market. How big is your market and how are you going to solve that problem? Your business model, which is going to be how are you going to go tackle this problem at an early stage? Or if you have revenue, how are you planning on making money? Then that goes into your next slide, which is your traction slide, your revenue slide. How are you making money? What are you expecting to make? Do you have a rough estimate timeline? What your product's going to be? And then doubling down on validation, which is, hey, like show us what you've done so far. Have you like what is it that you have done so far? Have you won anything? Are you in any magazines? Have you if you're not like if you're in market, how many customers do you have right now? What are the results? Or it could be testimonials. Testimonials to show me that people that have used your product and they had a very, very good time using that product. And then the last thing is your ask. And ask is a massive thing, which is what are you asking for? What are you here for today? Whether it's surprise, if it's money, if it's investment, like being clear on what you're asking for. Your team slide is massively important. Having a team slide and why your team. A lot of people start off their pitches with "Hello, my name is Imam. Hello, my name is Vanch," and they go one by one by one. A horrible thing to do. Your job is you haven't earned that right yet. So you wait till the end, you tell them about your team, well, what you've worked on, why you are the team to solve this problem. And then lastly, an impactful statement. You finish off with a very, very strong ending that people are going to remember, whatever time you're going when you're pitching. A storytelling, very, very heartbreak start. It's that hero's journey. It's like you start off with a very, very big problem, make everybody sad, then make them feel really good when your business introduction comes in. Then you make them feel better because you're going to be the one to solve the problem. And then you finish off with a powerful quote to basically finish off and leave with an impact statement. So that's been my pitch structure, but obviously with a very, very good story told.
Just to like summarize everything, if you could go back, give 18-year-old Imam one piece of advice, what would it be?
Wow, man. I would say focus on one thing that you truly believe you can do. Tune out the noise that's going to come your way because majority of the time that one thing you choose is going to be what everyone else is not doing. And I would say work your heart, soul, blood, and tears out on that thing and do not give up. Because if and stay consistent. If I was to stay consistent and I started this business at 18, I'd be this conversation would be very, very different. Very, 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 very different. That's 6 year head start, like on like terms today. So like six, yeah, no, 5 year head start. So 4 or 5 year head start from today would have been a massive, massive, massive up boost. And I think that would be my main piece of advice to myself, which is there's going to be noise, tune it out. You're going to want to quit, push it through. The reason wins feel so good is because you tasted defeat. That's the only reason a win feels good because you have something to compare to on how it felt ass when you lose. And that's part of the process. People aren't going to believe in you. People are going to tell you you're crazy. Your job is to put your head down and keep pushing. It's that keep swimming analogy. That itself, whether you're messing up, you'll learn, you'll find out what you mess up faster when you're in momentum, when you have momentum, when you're in action. So that's kind of momentum versus perfection. You'll learn what you're doing wrong faster if you're in pursuit. Very long-winded advice, man, but I think that'd be it.
Or yeah, I think that's everything. So thank you so much for your time, and I just cannot wait to see the amazing things you'll accomplish. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to it, man. I want to thank you obviously for inviting me to this, and man, I love this initiative. I love the fact you're working with student entrepreneurs. I'm for you guys. I'm here. Follow our journey. Again, you know, have our socials and everything. I'm sure we'll get linked.
Yeah,
Which is at SellStatic, which is even my username at Imam Khalid. But I think my main thing is that if you are here, there's never a better time than to start right now. If you think it's going to get easier later, I promise you it's not. Start now, take the shot, mess up, you'll learn a lot faster. And thank you much for this opportunity. And man, I'm excited to see where this goes into, man. Hopefully, you get much bigger and better guests onto this platform.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where it goes.